Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are glad you are here, and just by showing up, you are already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I am pleased to present two people that perfectly personify what this platform is all about: crazy smart people doing really cool work in the music industry. And I promise you will leave smarter and more enlightened than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I make my living by putting people like these two guys in jobs in the music industry. So, by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. And in this series, my goal is to help you make more connections. So please take every advantage of that opportunity today by first introducing yourselves in the chat window. Please share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. Also, and this is very important, please set your chat to address everyone, not just the speakers and the host. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not keep this series free. Special thanks to First Horizon Bank, Turnkey ZRG, Tennessee Entertainment Commission, MedJet, Tennessee Brewworks, and Better Than Booze. So let's get down to business. In today's first seat is my good friend, Nick Sciorra. Nick is a seasoned media and entertainment technology growth leader with 25 years of expertise as enterprise, fund, and corporate development advisor, attorney, and IP structuralist at the forefront of innovative business designs, monetization schematics, and scaled down platform growth strategies. Expert in complex media tech IP transactions, Nick has a proven track record of revenue growth, valuation acceleration, and strategic exits throughout development of uniquely optimized properties and partnerships with companies such as MSG Ventures, The Sphere, the Walt Disney Company, Universal Music Group, Sony Music Group, Global Digital Businesses, Verizon 5G Labs, and YouTube, as well as handling complex value development for Ariana Grande, Pharrell Williams, and the Wu-Tang Clan. Nick has served as adjunct professor at the NYU Tisch School of the Arts and the Clive Davis Recorded Music Institute. Welcome, Nick. It is such a pleasure to finally have you on my platform after 2 years of chasing you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
And joining Nick is Emil Winebrand. Emil is a visionary problem solver with over 2 decades of experience pushing the limits of technology. From leading teams in physics, electro-optics, and software engineering to his time in the IDF's Elite Intelligence Unit, Microsoft Surface, and Magic Leap, Emil has consistently delivered innovation. He holds both a master's and bachelor's in electrical engineering from Tel Aviv University and has been recognized with multiple awards for his contributions as CEO and founder of InSounds. Emil is at the forefront of transforming enterprise audio experiences through generative AI. It is my pleasure to welcome these two rock stars to our platform today. And gentlemen, let me begin by saying thank you for being here. I was halfway kidding a moment ago when I said to Nick that I've been chasing him for a long time, and I mean that. Nick, you've been high on my list to be a guest here, and I'm so pleased that you've brought Emil. Emil, you are the literal definition of the smartest guy in the room. Every time you walk into a room, I can tell with that pedigree and that profile. So this is going to be fun. Gentlemen, enough of me talking. Let's have you talk. First off, how do you all know each other? How did you connect in the first place?
Nick, you want to go?
I'll let you start.
So we met. We are 3 co-founders at InSounds, and accidentally met Nick here in Israel in a coffee shop, sitting with a friend of one of my other co-founders, and we just hit it off. I was kind of shy on this end because my background is super technology, and my other co-founders are more business, and they engage right away. And I was kind of on the back end of this, and took me a while to understand the whole thing of what is business and how to separate it from technology. And we have a great relationship since then. So yeah.
How long ago was that?
Wow. It's 7 years ago,
And
give or
Nick, at
take.
that time, and Nick, so you were just in a coffee shop hanging out in Tel Aviv? Come on now, tell me how that came about.
Oh, I mean, interestingly enough, just as Emil mentioned it, I was at that point I was sort of visiting, and I was introduced to a host of technology companies in Tel Aviv. I was in a coffee shop, in fact, with a technology company that was also in and around sort of the music algorithmic space, and these guys literally pull up in the booth next to me, and I kind of overhear them speaking. Mind you, this is 7, 8 years ago, maybe at this point, and sort of the notion of AI. I mean, what we think about that today versus back then. To say that Emil and really InSounds are prescient is an understatement if we're talking about it in today's terms. Mind you, 8 years ago, to have a conversation about the effect of AI. So I'm a guy from Brooklyn. So when my guys left, I rolled up on those guys and I had to learn more. And during the course of that, got back to their office. I will never forget, and that's sort of why I continue on through thick and thin here with InSounds. I will never forget the words that came out of this gentleman's mouth when I said, just break it down to me. Just give me not even the elevator pitch. Give me the sort of the baby in the bathwater, just as simple as it is. And Emil, I don't know if you remember this, but I will never forget it. It was essentially, Emil said, I'm seeking to recreate the human auditory system in AI. And I sat on that plane for 100 hours back to New York City, and that's all I could really think about. Imagine that, imagine the power of the human ability to hear things and understand things in space and time. I mean, our system. Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounded like from my side of the coffee cup.
I usually ask questions like, "Give it to me like I'm in fourth grade." Is that generally what you were asking?
100%. And that answer, that was the response, because I knew if it was that difficult, right, at that coffee shop, it was going to be just as difficult to the journey ahead, customers and investors and so on and so forth.
Well, Emil, what were you doing at that moment in time? In other words, 8 years ago, where were you working, and what caused you to be so interested in this idea?
Actually, I'm super fascinated about pretty much everything in technology since I was like, I don't know, maybe 4 years old. So everything about physics, electro-optics, acoustics, music, I was super fascinated, and specifically, human auditory system was a thing I was fascinated about. Um, in my mind, it's kind of a human auditory system is much more complex than even human vision, and it's surprising to a lot of people. But the level of sensitivity you have in your ears and brain and understanding what you hear is so profound, and it was developed in the human brain much earlier than vision. So for me it's so fascinating, and everybody kind of intuitively understand vision and human vision system. Nobody really understands what's going on in audio. It's so complex, and always fascinated me. And I had this idea. I was just out of the army, kind of thinking, what do I want to do? Working in Microsoft and other places, and that wasn't really my thing. I didn't want to work, you know, 9 to 5 in a corporate. So I was thinking what to do, and I'm a big NBA fan, so I really wanted to hear what's going on in inside the court, what the players are saying. So I actually started playing with this idea, and came to talk about this with Nick and my other partners, and we kind of hit it off then.
So, did you pursue it along the lines of I want to be like on the court, hearing what's being said among the players? Is that truly like where
Oh,
in
yeah.
sound. So tell us about that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting origin story.
So taking back, just before we started, I said I have family in Denver. So I was actually visiting my family in Denver, and I just jumped to a Nuggets game, and I was so engaged and so wanted to understand what's going on there. And I figured, imagine if at home I could actually feel as if I'm in mid-court. How would I feel? How would this experience look like? And actually decided to pursue this exact opportunity. This exact use case was so fascinating to me. And to be honest, InSounds was started up around this idea. It changed a bit since then, but that was the founding idea. And by the way, it created a lot of excitement with everybody who is either sports, music, audio, anyone who has any context to any of these areas got really excited about this idea. So yeah.
And this was 7 or 8 years ago, right?
Yeah. It was
And
8 years ago.
did you actually pursue a conversation with the NBA? Or how did you approach this from a pro sports standpoint?
So that's where Nick comes in. That's the magic man.
Yes.
So we figured who's the right. It was like a couple of months after we met him, and we was thinking how, like, we're an Israeli company, barely funded back then, just with an idea and a flower pot in the office. That's all what we had, and we were thinking, how do we get to the NBA? And my co-founder called Nick, and we actually got there. So, Nick, do you want to tell the story? Yeah.
I mean, it's what's amazing. I think what's amazing is that some of these technologies are so powerful. I mean, particularly the stuff that comes out of Israel in the media tech space. Quite frankly, that the larger enterprise folks at big media, big tech, sports, so on and so forth, that I love this moment when they go, is that really possible? Right. That sort of thing. We don't have to, individually lav mic up a player, which you can imagine a sports player can't be that restricted, right? But we can kind of what's called volumetrically capture, beamform this audio capture to this one player and mark that player throughout space and time. So at that point, I myself, quite frankly, who had a large law firm and then was asked by a big fund out of London to go to Tel Aviv and start to understand some of these technologies. I myself, sort of really didn't know from a use case perspective on either side of the equation if this was a go. But I tried around. So we went to Tom Sciorra, who's the head of sports broadcast for Warner Media and Turner Sports, and the guys at then before Disney, ESPN, Mike Newman, and so on and so forth. And when we rolled it by them, also the board of of Major League Baseball, and just sort of said, look, you guys want eyeballs, you want more engaging, right, viewership and audience. That's going to get sort of your earnings up. I mean, what if we provided kind of like an intimate moment inside, the hearts and minds, so to speak, of a player, coach, first base coach, whatever and they were really sort of fascinated by the concept. And of those three players, which was Major League Baseball, NBA, and Warner Media, and ESPN, and we even started talking to hockey. I'll never forget this moment. I went up to some friends I know in business and legal affairs at NHL, and Emil, mark my word, they shipped, basically because you really can't have the microphone. At that point, we had a dedicated flat panel microphone. And so I'll never forget the first meeting. This guy's like, let's just ship a whole panel to the InSound's office in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was like, sure, let's do that. And they did.
Yeah, that was like a 3 by 3 foot panel. Let's just ship part of the backstop of the NHL to Israel.
Right next to the flower pot in the startup's office, by the way.
Yeah, true.
So
funny enough. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No.
So keep going, Nick. So fast forward to did this actually become a thing with the leagues?
So we we took the first step with each of those players. We did a proof of concept deal with each of those players and went pretty far down the road, I think, with the NHL. And essentially, what was interesting was really sort of no problem whatsoever on the in-sound side of the product. Essentially, what happened was they had quickly realized something that I had started to realize, right, sort of going through the motions. And a lot of my entree points were essentially guys in business and legal affairs, that he had a business in legal affairs or business development, CSOs, that kind of thing. And what they started to realize was that this was such a critically valuable new piece of data, right? That they would need to sort of go through the conditions preceding in their agreement, player unions, the broadcast rights players, if it was, or the league, if it was the broadcast player, if it was the league, then the broadcast partner, and sponsors, umpires, referee unions, that their list got so long of contractual conditions preceding that they needed to check off, realizing that if they could deliver this, and sometimes you see it in games now, um, uh, that they would basically need to retool their deal for this new data set, because it just meant more money, and that meant that all of those stakeholders wanted to split that money up. So while that happened, essentially, Emil kind of brought the AI algorithm to a whole new place. And just now we're starting to sort of dabble back around in sports while those guys worked out their problem. But that's not so much end of that story, but that's the tail of how that value narrative, if you will, in sports and sports broadcast came to be.
So was the pivot immediately toward music, or when you went away from sports, Emil, where did you go first?
So first we went to actually newsrooms, broadcasting, classical broadcasting, trying to we actually figure out that the same technology we developed for sports can be essential for broadcasting, kind of reducing the amount of effort needed to create that high quality sound for newsrooms and all the labor that it goes around actually miking, talking heads, wiring, wireless, batteries, different engineers. We figured out we can automate the whole process of audio production without microphones, without people actually doing anything, just coming to the show, start speaking, and that's it, and go. So that's where we focused back then after sports. And actually the promise was you can democratize a lot of the audio production and like allow everybody to create their own studio without having anything special ready to go there. And remember, it is before the podcasting area, so that was kind of revolutionary. We were thinking about how to use audio to democratize journalism and allow everybody to do that with easily accessible high quality audio.
Okay. And so this was how many years ago now? What year are we in now?
Yeah, that's just before the pandemic. So
Okay.
that was 2019, and then the pandemic hit, and things became a little bit rough on that end of the business. So if you look at the business, was basically hardware and software that is installed on any studio, mid, low, high end, doesn't matter. We just come in, put our hardware, and you don't need mics at all. That's it. That's done. You just come in. There's an acoustical beam that tracks you and creates a kind of a beam just for you. It's routed into a mixing console. Everybody that comes in gets their own channel. It's fully automated, and that's it. So we had to go to those studios and demo stuff, and nobody was willing to actually accept us because COVID. And in Israel, it was a little bit more relaxed, but in the States, it was like much more, intense. and we just couldn't travel.
Not in Nashville.
Not in Nashville. Well, maybe that should have been our destination.
Yeah,
But
there was no
if you look
COVID in Nashville.
Nice.
But go on.
And then the second hit we got was from, because there was hardware component to the product, and even for customers who were willing to accept us, we had to manufacture, and then all supply chains in the world stopped, and we're like stuck with small amount of hardware, lots of promises to our investors. We can't move. We can't do anything. It was crazy. Yeah, it was a really, really rough time. And I remember also the frustration, because we actually had a huge customer, not naming names, but really huge customer. Just before the pandemic, we kind of close the deal where we do a pilot. If it's successful, we go on and fully deploy it in a new facility. It was like a big deal, and they were excited about it. We were excited, but we couldn't do it. I remember Nick actually trying to find ways. How do we demo the product? How do we show it? We can do it in broadcasting in live, without actually breaking any pandemic rules. And remember, it's just the beginning of the pandemic. People don't even know if they can travel. They can get on an airplane, not especially not meet somebody from out of state. So that was very rough.
Okay. So we emerged from the pandemic. How about, when did you pivot into music?
So music was always on our mind. Music is when you talk about audio, you cannot really not hint in any way in some sort of form about music. So music was always on our mind. We didn't get into music, I would say, just until lately, in last year, with our newest product, which is basically Gen AI Factory. We call it a factory, basically, but it allows anyone to create their own AI agent. And this AI agent performs a precise task in audio. It can do, I don't know, restoring music. It can do enhancing, bad singers, bad environment, streamlining a lot of the audio and music production stuff. And that actually happened inevitably just last year, because we offered our software products, to the whole industry.
So give me what's the cost of entry here? What does this cost of somebody or a company wants to use this?
So basically, it's a B2B model. So if a business wants to create an agent, AI agent, that is actually, think about this AI agent is your audio engineer, but it's only capable of doing one task, one small task at a time. Let's say remove, I don't know, sirens from music. Sirens from recordings, if you have sirens accidentally. So a business can specify what exactly wants that agent to do. It can play with it, it can test it, and if it likes, then it goes to a whole new phase where it can integrate that as part of their platform. And our entry level is pretty much from about 100K annual license fee per such agent. But the amount of value you get from that it's tenfold. So it's pretty interesting proposition. If I may, if you look at the at the music industry, the amount of work that goes to manual work, that goes to producing content and potentially even improving all content, is so laborious and so unique per use case. So the amount of money you need to invest in that is substantially larger and bigger than our promise, where AI agents can do that work for you.
I mean, if I could jump in, what I really sort of
Yeah.
love about this proposition that Emil's constructed and really engineered, invented in relationship to music and certainly other sound-based or audio-based form factors is it's a potential to do good because of what he speaks to, right? Whether it's a major label group who has master recording copyrights that they want to ensure, sort of we live in this universe whereby you have this copyright, this musical copyright that sort of moves out into the ether. It's consumed on a streaming platform. Potentially, it's downloaded. It's synchronized into maybe a sports program, right? Or sports programming, and it just kind of like has a life of its own. And we read so much about how AI and music or music copyright in particular, has had a bad rap over the last certainly year, and that's all what it is, and not to belittle that in any way, but there's also a whole universe, including obviously what Emil is doing at InSounds, where AI is essentially a benefactor of not only sort of the musical creator, but also the music rights holder, right? Whether that's a label group, a music publisher, a live events producer, a large scale live events producer who then creates concert films, whatever the form factor is. Interestingly enough, I mean, sort of what's been created here allows for, at the enterprise level, right, at that large scale firm level, for those CTOs, those CSOs who have a reoccurring problem, such as, we're losing fidelity of our audio. Can you help us measure or mark with some what we would call mean opinion score of the audio integrity or fidelity using AI across the use of that Billie Eilish song, right, on Spotify? Or could you ensure with a watermark, right, that we know that sort of as the commercialization of that master recording is streamed, it's downloaded, it's synchronized into film, right, that it's always pinging back to a server that this was the exploitation use, right? This was the point of purchase, so to speak. We could do that certainly with InSounds AI, which is fascinating in our watermarking feature. And the same goes for archival restoration. You've got these the large scale libraries now that we see that are being securitized by all the big players in the space. Part of what they need to do is underscore and understand the integrity of the copyright, right? They have to ensure that copyright is intact, right? That there's not pieces that are lopped off, and whether that happens at the archival, right, level, where a piece of the song needs to be called constructed, like has happened recently with the Beatles, or even along the way from just usage, right, that the end user from a fidelity standpoint is not hearing. Same thing, sort of the audio AI is able to take that on and take it on in this sort of super customized way. And that's, we have a lot of adoption now by top-tier clients in the music and media industry, and essentially you would be surprised, and certainly Emil and I and Greg Stein, who's on our team, we're endlessly fascinated with what we get hit with, and just like putting in a prompt to ChatGPT, this is essentially audio enterprise ChatGPT for the big boys, for the big leagues.
So something comes to my simple mind: streaming fraud. Is this something, can this AI help with that problem for major labels?
100%. One key element, basically, when we think about AI, it's either deterring people or people see opportunities. The problem with AI and audio is that people always think about fake and people using their content inappropriately, etc., etc. there is a way to make sure that AI is safe, and I believe that's the only way to do that. Encryption and technology is mathematically much more advanced than AI. So if you use encryption and embed specific keys inside your audio, no AI can fraud that and remove that. There is like it's like bringing a gun to a knife, knife fight. Encryption is here in complexity, AI is here. So here's the thing. If you embed specific tokens into audio, such that like you and I cannot hear that, and nobody can erase that, and no AI can counterfeit that, that's when your audio and your content is protected forever. We decided from the get-go that our goal within 2025, by the way, to have all our AI models have those tokens embedded in everything that goes out. So essentially, if you use such technology to enhance, recreate, or whatever you do with InSound's models, they put that stamp that will forever be associated with you as a creator. So nobody can stream that fraudulently, because it will be scanned and it will be flagged, because the audio itself is already stamped in that sense. We're counting on this technology to actually fight a lot of the fears that you have out there about fake audio and misuse of content, or even of voice. People are afraid about their voice, about their unique voice. So we believe that's the way, and we want to be the pioneers in that field as well. And I think we're building the platform in a way that, because our platform is used to create millions of hours and potentially billions of hours of audio, not to create, but actually improve or manipulate in a high fidelity way, we'll have enough content that is already stamped with these tokens. So it will create a standard in the industry, and the understanding that that's the only way to really go into that AI era and not be afraid about losing our ability to own IP. Hope it makes sense.
Well, it does. Again, the simple mind here, my mind starts going 1,000 different directions on who's really going to use this. And my friend from Nashville, Tim Whipperman, has asked a really interesting question here in the chat that says, how do you know the entity requesting the AI service is the real holder of the copyright? In other words, there's a lot of bad actors out there that would like to misappropriate such. How do you know you're dealing with the genuine owner of that copyright?
It's a very good point. So we want to provide the tools because we're a B2B company. We want to provide the tools for the different DSPs. They get new materials, and before their creators start to distribute that, they will sign with tokens their content and let them have this copy, and this is now appropriate for distribution. We want to give the tools to the world. We don't want to take their role of engaging with content creators. We don't want to be in that junction, because that's not our business, and basically there are people who know how to do that. We just want to give them the right tools and to be safe in that scary AI world.
I'll quickly add, and it's the lesser of the sexy. Where Emil's going is essentially on the technical side of it. I mean, I'll put my lawyer hat on for a second and try to attempt to answer that question, right? For any say platform use, whether it's Microsoft Teams, this platform that we're on right now, or otherwise, right? You're potentially gonna play some music in the background. You're gonna present something. You have to come to the party. Just sort of at the base layer. You have to come to the party with a set of assumptions that, quite frankly, when you sign your end user license agreement or your shrink wrap agreement to any one of these platforms or any one of the technology sets or data sets that you use, right? You're essentially making a set of statements. You're warranting and presenting, and therefore indemnifying others who are playing nicely along with you as to a certain number of baseline, call it, sort of like entry keys to the kingdom. And some of that is that, you have the right to be here, and you have the right to say what you say is yours, and that sort of stuff. And that's quite frankly part and parcel to any innovator, creator, I'm just going to say playground, but certainly contractual, transactional, complex set of rights, right? So it's another way to answer the question. Again, it's the less fun of them, but it very much is the case. So we're not here to be judge and jury, quite frankly, right, on ownership per se. What we're saying is, here's a set of tools. And the way our systems work is right now it's more enterprise level. So there's a long-standing transaction with the player on the other side. So it's a major label with 10 attorneys and right and 4 business development folks and et cetera, et cetera. So the assumption certainly in that regard is that they own. And as we move to B2C, right now we're in this kind of managed service role because we're teaching ourselves and we're teaching our machine essentially a bunch of things about business challenges and business use cases and business intelligence, which is not IP protected, and that's part of our special sauce. But all that said, it's a really good point when you let this thing out into the wild, so to speak, right? And down the road, when it's far more automated on the commercial side, when folks are allowed to come onto the platform, say, download a model for themselves that they created an audio or music sort of AI model solving agent for themselves, and that thing is then not theirs per se, but sort of the use authorization is theirs, right? It's a really good point. How do we ensure that they're not using that in infringing ways, right? But if you will, you can imagine that everything that you use, quite frankly, has that issue and has that baseline, quite frankly, whether it's Roblox or right, a gaming device where you upload a skin, right? So none of the folks who developed the platform are sort of going to vouch for you that you are or are not infringing. What they're going to say is you're promising, right, that what you put onto this platform or how you use the functionality of this tool set or this product base is in an authorized, non-infringing manner, right? And so obviously that's part of what that end user license agreement or shrink wrap agreement is partly ensuring you're going to be obligated, sort of the benefit of the bargain, if you will, of your contractual promise. So hopefully that's part of an answer.
It is, but honestly, the simpleton here says there's so many bad actors out there already that, yeah, I own that song, which I don't. You know what I mean? I just wonder, is there a way for your platform to also figure out, does this person actually truly own it? But that's a conversation for a different day. Tell us a little bit about the competitive landscape. Who else is coming into this space? And, Emil, what keeps you up at night?
Actually, solving problems keeps me up at night, but to be honest, you have big players in the space. Adobe is really have their vision of how people interact with, how creators interact with AI. I would say it's more of a kind of a for professionals and creators rather than enterprise and scale, but they are thought leaders in that space as well. I look at them and see what are the turns they're taking at every junction. Very interesting, exciting, and also trying to stay clear of their path. They're a giant, and they have their vision, but there are so many unsolved real needs in the audio space and music space, especially in enterprise, and that's where we play. So Adobe is a big player we're looking at. There is also an Israeli company called Waves. Very interesting stuff they're doing. So Yeah.
This sounds like a company that's ripe to be purchased by a large private equity fund soon. Am I getting that right vibe?
Maybe.
Look at Nick smiling there.
No comment.
We want to build something big. We want to build. That if you ask me what excites me, what makes me really tick and come, it's the thought about being a trusted AI agents player in the audio space, in the music space, and kind of be the trusted brand of AI, like Dolby for audio. If you look at 50 years ago till now, they're kind of a trusted brand. I want to be there, but in the AI space.
So my pal Lars Murray is asking a question here about, is the toothpaste already out of the tube? In other words, all the, shall we say, bad music, I don't mean taste-wise, but the corrupted music from a copyright standpoint, or already ripped off. How does InSounds address that, or does it have an answer for that?
So the answer is like generally yeah, but there are so many other new opportunities. Even with old material, there's so many new opportunities. And if the DSPs, the owners of and the distributors of the content played correctly, they can actually monetize and help creators monetize on their previous content in the new AI age. Let me give you a small example. Let's say you want to create. I'm a fan of Guns N' Roses. Who is not? So let's say you want to recreate the guitar player Slash, okay? And you want to have, and somebody tries to create an AI agent that plays exactly like this dude, and create new songs with him, and embed him into new materials it creates. Okay. What he needs for that is a lot of data, specifically of that specific guitar player, right? Separated from everything else. You can have other stuff inside. You can have crowd, you can have singers, you can have everything mixed in. You need the stems, the original stems. A lot of the content owners have the stems, have the recording in stems, and they can use that to sell that to to different AI companies in the music space, and to create new ways to monetize music by creating those agents, like a guitar player that does same thing as Slash. And this is like an fully on it's an untapped area. It's a new way of creating content. Creating revenue from existing content. However, everything out there in the wild is not stem separated, and if it is stem separated, it's done by other AI. It's not good enough for training a new AI. So you need the original content, get it out there in the world, and now you can start protecting yourself with AI tokens, embedding that into this material, and making sure that everybody that uses your content to create new AI agents, players, whatever you call them, is gonna get a payday at the end.
It's a really great point. If I could just dig down on that for a second, because copyright law hasn't really changed, right? So, this notion. I mean, thank you, Lars, for the question. I mean, but the issue is really sort of the pace of play. That's kind of the problem, right? That there's just so much infringing AI-driven material out there, but copyright law hasn't changed. And so what, quite frankly, we're trying to do and working with major labels in some regard to do is essentially to ensure that, to Emil's really good point, right? If you have the original stems, right, which is the underlying basis for the copyright, it's the performance, right? Fixed in a tangible medium is what the copyright law says. So that moment in which that master recording is created, right, those stems represent the DNA, if you will. What we're doing is essentially ensuring that DNA stays as DNA, right? And no matter what AI's ability is to infringe at scale, right, unauthorized recording or creation, whatever it is, whether it's on whatever side of the copyright, master side or musical composition. What we're trying to say, what we're trying to execute on, and again, Emil is doing this, which is amazing, and InSounds is doing this. And again, we're just starting now to work with majors, just because that's the first, right? That's the sort of top of that vertical, if you will, as well as with the other big catalog players, is to ensure that, you know, that there's a DNA marker, so to speak, right? So anything else that comes after that, imagine the inverse of Laura's question, right? Yes, the toothpaste is out of the tube, right? But imagine you can kind of go back in time to that first, you know, stepped on the toothpaste in the hotel room and it's about to pop out, just to use a visual, right? And inside that sort of push out into the universe is the ability to, just like AI, the bad actor at scale and feeling almost unstoppable. Now imagine the ability for at scale, right, to go back and catch that virus, so to speak. It's not dissimilar, if you will, for like virology and network and viruses and all that sort of stuff. So that's a lot of what we're working on, alongside the other component parts of that, right? Sort of the ability to understand degradation of musical works throughout that value chain system, and the ability to kind of reconstitute or reconstruct, right, music at the copyright holder's request, right? You have archival problems. I mean, down in Nashville, I remember working with Country Music Hall of Fame in this regard, about their interest in ensuring that, you know, a lot of working on a project with Cowboy Jack Clement, and you know, half of stuff is the annals of country music, but it's also like, you know, on a basement floor somewhere, and you know, that's what we're trying to do, is really affect wild scalable change on the right side of that coin.
So George Schwentz asked an interesting question here. Emil, you've used the term token a couple of times in describing this. Is this essentially a new and improved blockchain technology?
It is compatible with blockchain. So meaning you embed a token inside an audio, it's now stays there forever, if that's the only copy that, you know, goes. And you also put that token on a blockchain, so you can forever kind of match them, the audio that is out there, and it's blockchain, either ownership, any transactional interactions that you do with that token actually is doubly associated. It's embedded in the audio and it's embedded in a blockchain. Yeah, so there is a deep connection here that we're actually looking into.
My simple mind wonders, is this a better mousetrap than Content ID?
Content ID is breakable.
That's why I said, is it better?
Yeah, true. I'm just reiterating what you said. And it really makes it, I believe it makes it safe. It allows people to do interactions in the audio space, not being afraid of, oh my God, this AI is gonna steal all my you know, livelihood. And I think it's a better mousetrap, but actually traps mice. Sorry, that's one way to look at it. I think there's another way to look at this, maybe from a different perspective. Like I'm taking a use case from a customer, not necessarily with tokens, but they want to be able to choose when they do so-called rights infringement, or not rights infringement, but actually paying ahead of time to the creator, rather than doing it accidentally. Doing it multiple times accidentally because it's a corporate, it's an enterprise, and then paying lawyers, you know, the big share. So what can you do with that? In lots of cases, there's accidental, inadvertent music that can get into a video clip with you know, no malice, and it just goes to social media, and then if you have an enterprise that does that, I don't know, 2 million times a year, then you have 2 million clips that go on social media, and then basically, I don't know, 1% of them, 0.5% of them accidentally do some kind of rights infringement. So imagine an AI that separates content from everything you want to put out there. Let's say not music. Let's say, I don't know, sports and music, and let the creators actually decide whether they want that music in or not, and just do the payment ahead of time instead of going through the judicial system. Somebody gets a lawsuit, most of the money gets to the lawyers and basically doesn't end up at the creator's hands. So there is that use case again. AI can actually help identify ahead of time what is potentially rights infringing, separate that from the everything else, and offer that as an option rather than post event kind of judicial action.
An AI that'll put lawyers out of business. Now you got something.
Listen, lawyers are afraid. Lawyers are afraid. Our company's attorneys, they go to this convention. They're super afraid about AI. More than I would imagine, more than content creators.
And interesting. I mean, what's fascinating about what Emil says, and it's a use case that we're involved with right now with sports, Major League Sports broadcasting, is it's on two sides, right? It is the infringement side that he speaks to. Willful infringement in the United States is still $500,000, $500,000 per infringement, right? So you imagine a broadcast, then that broadcast goes to social media, non-linear broadcast, and then on your phone and social media, right? So you've got these three layers of infringement. Remember, every play, $500,000, even for, sort of larger scale, big media enterprise, they're just not interested. And sometimes stuff gets through, right? They have programming, obviously, but on broadcast, you've got, ball games like basketball and hockey and stuff where you hear, right? You hear bleed through and that sort of stuff. So the ability for certainly the InSounds ecosystem to capture and separate, that's one, like as you hear, this is what I love about this space. I really do. As you hear Emil speak, you also can see a universe by which, you have just user-defined engagement, right? Like I want to watch my basketball game actually with this set of music, right, in the breaks or so on and so forth. The same system that we're using to source separate all of those sounds and ensure that there's copyright, I'll call it copyright integrity to that broadcast, is the same one where, it's not too far down the road where whether it's the customer or comes from our end as a feature offering, right? You get the ability for their end users from an engageability standpoint to select what they want to hear, because we could separate that all out and kind of create a la carte sushi menu. And essentially now, Tom, you want to watch whatever the big college ball game is with this set of music in your breaks, and I want to hear something different. And so therefore everyone's watching more and paying more. It's a brave new world, but an exciting and valuable new world.
How big is the company now? How many employees at InSounds?
We're closer to 30. Most of them are R&D located in Israel. And we have amazing partners like Nick and Greg in the States leading the charge.
Well, you're in good hands with Nick and Greg Stein. Those guys know all the right doors to knock on.
True.
We should say in 2025, our hope is that, in fact, R&D and the technical product team will stay in the laboratory, and we'll move the commercial side, the go-to-market side, business affairs, and the like here to the States. And we're going to drag Emil. It's going to be like a spaghetti. And just drag him back and forth. So that's our designs in growth coming up in 2025.
Well, very cool. Well, we have a lot of smart people tuned into this today who've been in and around the music industry for many years. I'm sure their minds are also swimming with other use cases and what ifs and other questions for you. But guys, I think that's a good time to start to wrap this up. I want to thank you for first giving me the opportunity to shine a light on both of you. It's been awesome. Nick, as I've said earlier, I've been chasing you for 2 years to do this. Emil, this is really mind-blowing, and you are the smartest guy in any room you walk into. I'm certain of that. I can't wait to see what happens with this. And with that, if you've got anything else to say, I will sign it out. Anything else?
Just thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was
Thank
a
you for the
perfectly timed
You know where to
form.
find us.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Happy holidays. Stay safe. To the audience, I promised you'd leave more smarter and more enlightened than you arrived. I think we delivered on that promise. We'll see you next week for the very last event of our year. It's be a little bit lighter content next week, I promise you, featuring my friend Todd Mayo, who is the genius behind the Caverns in Pelham, Tennessee. So it's going to be a little bit more ground level. Sorry about that pun. Ground level content for us, but I'm excited to wrap up the year with those guys. Emil and Nick, you're the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Take care.